Hello, everyone! We're still in Las Vegas, immersed in the excitement of the World Series of Poker. In the $10,000 main event, legend Gus Hansen was sadly knocked out on day one. No need to panic, though. Team Winamax only has sharks on the substitutes bench. As he heads into the 2024 WSOP, Adrian Mateos is enjoying the best year of an already exceptional career. In June, after a spectacular victory on a Triton event, part of the world's most expensive tournament circuit, Adrian broke the $47 million barrier in career earnings, reaching the top 10 of the famous all-time money list. At just 30 years of age, he's the youngest member, rubbing shoulders with legends such as Daniel Negreanu and Justin Bonomo. But even the greatest have their Achilles heel. Cristiano Ronaldo has never won the World Cup. Federer has often stumbled against Nadal. And Adrian? He's never had a deep run in the World Series main event. So what if this 2024 edition is the one? It's still too early to say, but for the moment, Adrian's tournament is off to a good start. It's with a stack of 125,000, or over 200 blinds, that we find him at the start of the 5th level, which will be the last of day one. One last thing before we meet with Adrian. As you're about to hear, our hero speaks our language very well and almost without an accent. It's a feat made possible by the magic of the latest artificial intelligence technology, which your favorite series is testing out for the first time in this new season. Adrian, we're handing the microphone over to you.
Hey, bro. Now, inside the...
It's on you? How much you have?
Goose Bastard, they have 130.
130.
You?
Or 120.
Nice. Good luck, bro.
The first few levels of this tournament went really well. I managed to double my starting stack and even a little bit more, 130,000 in chips. The main event is a very special tournament for me. I would love to get a great result. And I have a very different strategy in the main event compared to other tournaments. And that's because in the main event, most of the players I'm facing, such as the ones that are currently at my table, I don't know them. And I think it's a tournament where my strategy is going to be less theoretical than in the rest of the high rollers I usually play.
If I could catch a draw on the river, I ain't made a draw on the river yet.
Welcome back to break. Coming back with 300 small, 600 big, 600 big blind. 366.
I think the players at my table are a bit intimidated by the cameras. I've got a lot of cameras on me, and obviously it's not the norm. I'm not sure how it's going to affect each one of them, but well, I'm sure it gives them some kind of respect if they're not used to it. I get 10-9 suited. I'm going to open. My opponent on the button seems to want to play the hand. He decides to call. Let's see if it's a good flop. It's a flop on which my strategy is going to be to rather check, being out of position. And therefore here, with the 9 middle pair, it's clearly a hand I have to check with.
$15, right?
Yes.
He bet 1,500. All right, I have an obvious call. There's nothing else I can do other than calling here. It's a turn that favors a bit more my range. I decide to check. Good news. He checks back. River 5. Here, I think that I don't have enough value to bet, and that it's better to check and decide based on what my opponent does next. If my opponent checks, I have a good chance of winning. If he bets, it will be a difficult decision. I show and I win the hand. I keep raking in pots, which is always important, even if they are small pots. I'm very comfortable at this beginning of the main event. I have the majority covered, everyone at the table actually. That's cool, because no one can bust me in one hand. Let's hope this adventure in the main event lasts a long time.
Attention players, please keep from a 9 seat on a broken table, table 455. Please make yourself known to a floor supervisor. Table 455 was just broken. We're looking for the 9 seat. Do you have one of your personal belongings?
How much do you have? Probably like 20,000.
Probably like 20.
He's a professional player that I have little information about, apart from the first few levels. He has 33 blinds, and with this hand, I think it's better to check. Good flop. Against a check here, I have two options, either to bet or to check. I choose to start inflating the pot. I don't expect a lot of check raises from my opponent. Good turn. I can keep betting, or I can check from time to time, but I think I'd rather keep betting. I think that by checking, I don't induce many bluffs on the river, because most hands that check call me on the flop have showdown value. And I think my hand gets more value by betting. Good river too. I think my top pair is good here and I have to keep betting. I'm gonna try to get another street of value. He only has a few better aces he would have checked the flop with, and he doesn't have a lot of two-pair combos with this turn and river. I have a clear value bet. I decide to go for a value of 3/4 the pot. I think any ace can go for value on this river. I feel him uncomfortable and well, he decides to fold. Good fold on his part. I love playing this tournament. It's a very special one, and the strategy I have is very different from the rest of high roller tournaments where I know most of the players. Here, you can play a much more creative game in my opinion. A good hand.
Raise. Good king.
The player on the button calls. The small blind is tanking for quite a while.
Raise.
He decides to squeeze against early position and button. I think his range here is pretty strong. Still, ace-jack suited is a pretty good hand, and we're very deep. It's 100 blinds effective against over 100 blinds. It's even 150 blinds, and I think with my hand it's a call. The button, it looks like he's gonna fold and we're heads up. King, queen, 8. It's a quite favorable flop for him and his range. He's often going to hit here. I estimate that his squeezing range is pretty tight. He bets 1/3 of the pot. My hand with no backdoor is pretty marginal here against a strong range. Good thing I'm in position and we're very deep, so if a 10 hits, I will be able to win a big one. Still, I think calling is fine. I decide to call. Let's see if a 10 falls. Number bad turn. And here, if he keeps firing, I'm going to have to fold. He decides to check. That's good news for my hand. I still think he has a pretty strong range, though. The question here is whether to turn my hand into a bluff or to check and realize the equity of my hand. This depends on the percentage of folds he has on the turn. I don't think he has many, so I decide to check. The player rechecks his cards on the river when the flush gets completed. In the main event, people tend to check on the turn with hands that they should clearly bet. I wouldn't be surprised if he had checked with aces or ace-king on the turn, which he shouldn't do. Some players try to play small ball and check with very strong hands. That means that on the river, they have a lot more value. It's a pretty obvious fold with my hand. It is possibly the worst hand with which I get to the river, so I like my decision to not have bluffed the turn because I think I'm facing a very strong range, and on the flop I just called hoping to hit the 10, nothing else.
Thank you. Take it easy.
The player in seat 1 decides to limp. He calls 600. The hijack makes a small raise. He seems to be a recreational player. Professional players usually make it bigger here. When he raises that small, I have a feeling he doesn't have that strong of a hand. That's my read for now, at least, although that could change based on what he does on the next streets. Here, with the 7, I'm going to call once. 3 of spades. He grabs chips pretty quickly and decides to bet again. There you go, easy fold. When we both call on the flop and he continues firing aggressively on the turn, my 7 is not enough. Nine to 5 of hearts. This hand is usually a fold, but it's a good table. I think I can open wider than what is theoretically optimal, and this is one of the adaptations I make in the main event. Especially when playing so deep against players who are not used to playing at this level, I think I can deviate a little. It's a flop where I'm going to make a c-bet quite often. He calls me with about 38,000 behind. Very good turn. Here I have a clear value bet. I often have the best hand, and besides I need protection. I decide to continue with a bet of about 2/3 the pot.
No,
Two back.
only two back, two back. It's okay. No. Now you got it wrong again. Give him one. There you go.
Somebody's sharp.
Nice river. This river is a blank. My hand's going to be the best hand very often. I think I have a clear value bet. He has a few 3x in his range that he's not going to fold on the river. He's going to check raise with them on the flop less than he's supposed to, so he's going to get to the river with a few 3x and a lot of ace highs in his range. I think he could call me on the river with hands like ace queen, ace jack, ace 10, even ace 5, ace 4. That makes a lot of combos that I'm beating. I wouldn't even be surprised if he calls me with king queen or king jack from time to time. He will perceive a lot of bluffs through this sequence, and I think I have to thin value bet. Although this isn't a particularly thin value either, it's a pretty clear value. I think I very, very often have the best hand. Let's hope he calls. If he raises, it's bad news, really bad news. But if he calls, I should win quite often. He seems to be hesitating. He doesn't quite know what to do based on his body posture. I'm not expecting him to raise me based on his attitude. He must be thinking about whether to call or fold. It looks like he's grabbing chips. And he calls. Good. I show the 9. That's enough. A nice pot. 3 streets of value. One of the main mistakes I see in the main event is that people don't get enough value out of their hands. This value was an easy one, but a lot of players wouldn't have went for it, and that's what makes this tournament so profitable. I obviously have to open with this hand.
1300.
The player in the hijack decides to call. And I find myself heads up against him.
Trying to get my chips back. Tails.
On this flop, I have 2 options. C-betting or checking are both totally valid options. I decide to check and he checks back. The turn is very good. I think it's better to start betting my jack here. I think that by checking, I'm not going to induce enough bluffs from this type of profile.
Not this hand though.
Florida man will return.
You ever see them? You ever see them headlines of Florida man
Yeah,
going wild?
yeah, oh yeah. Search, just Google Florida man at any time, right? And you're gonna find some wild shit in the
Florida
news.
always has donkey of the day.
Florida man, Florida man does this.
Florida man, Florida woman is always an entertaining stuff.
Yeah.
I can't see his chips.
A little overstarted, 60 something.
He opens with a stack of about 100 blinds approximately from the hijack.
You only lose about a third of your stuff.
I decide to defend. It's clearly a hand to defend with.
We're at a third.
Second pair. I'm going to check call. Unless he bets very small. A very big bet. I mean, this bet sizing is wrong theoretically. It's a flop where he should check or bet small with most of his range. And I perceive his big bet as a sign of strength. Still, my hand is too strong, but here, I could fold a lot more than I'm supposed to. The turn is an 8, which improves my 2 pair. The famous 3 pair, which are not very useful. And let's see what our opponent decides to do. On a board with 2 flush draws, he decides to bet half the pot, which is a small bet, but I still think that his bet on the flop was a sign of strength. Also, I think he's going to play tight against me. It's a pretty marginal situation. I think I would have folded a 6. An Otto say, I'm afraid to give up my hand because he could have a hand like 7-7 or some flush draw that he's going to bluff with less on the river that he should. And with a half pot bet, I think I have to keep calling. But no, I don't really like the situation. He checks very quickly with jacks, which is a hand that should be value bet on the river. This is what I was alluding to before. My read was that he had it on the flop. That's why I'm not very happy. Because on the turn, although the pot odds are good and he has no bluffs on the flop, it might still be a fold.
Thank you, man. Take it
This
easy.
is still marginal, in my opinion. I think in this tournament there are a lot of tells, and a lot of times the bet sizing and the speed with which they bet tells you what they have. I can pretty much trust my instincts. Pair of sixes. A standard raise from the cutoff. Both blinds call me. Here I like to c-bet, make a small continuation bet. I think that my range against two players want to bet small most of the time. Check or small bet. Usually my hand needs protection, and any fold I get is good, in addition to getting paid by worse hands. On this fourth, I don't have any more value. I have a pretty obvious check. Very good river, amazing. The good thing here is that he has a lot of ace highs that make a straight and that he won't fold. Yeah, I have to bet big. And if he is an experienced player, which I doubt, because I haven't played much against him, he could fold a strong hand here if I overbet. I think that my range shouldn't overbet here. I'm just going to bet 90%. Seems pretty good. He should call me here with all the aces, AX, and then you never know. Sometimes they don't believe you and want to make hero calls with worse hands. He folds a set. Good fold on his part. It's true that it's a sequence where I'm going to only have a few bluffs. He read the situation well and made a great fold. An Asian player opens. I can barely see his face between his mask and his cap. My hand, theoretically it's a fold, but since my strategy in the main is quite different from a normal tournament, I think I can play more hands pre-flop. Especially when players are pretty deep and have a lot of blinds in front of them. He opens with a stack of 100 blinds, and I think it's profitable here to play my king 5 suited. Flush draw. he decides to check. Here, with my hand, I can either check or bet. This hand, I'd rather bet it often. I decide to go for a small sizing. Let's see if a club comes. That would be great news. A second 9. It's a card that favors a lot his range. Most of my 9x would have wanted to check on the flop, so I don't have as many trips, but he has many more. Checking and betting are both valid options. It's a card that I'm not going to want to bet often, but this hand in particular can be bet sometimes. It gives a straight to the 10th. And me, with possibly the worst hand that could have made it here, who called in the hijack against an early position raise and decided to bet the flop. Let's see what my opponent decides to do. If he bets, I have an obvious fold. If he checks, I have a candidate hand to bluff. Here, I just want to bet with straights and not much else. My opponent could have overpairs, so most of my Jack-X want to check. Most of my full houses would have already bet on the turn. So my main value hand is a straight. If I have a straight, I don't have many of them in my range, and if I did have it, I think I'd have to bet big. I like to bluff this hand with a big bet, representing a straight. I decide to bet potter. And my opponent folds. There are a lot of hands that he's going to fold, almost automatically, like ace queen, ace king, that would sometimes continue on the flop and decide not to bluff on the river. Just by folding out these combos, it's already a lot of them. And I think I can make him fold pairs as well. About 140,000 in chips. I keep going up.
Don't you dare put a 6 out there.
It's a very long tournament. In the last hand, he shoves with ace-jack very, very wide and beat the queens of this player on my right. I think it's a very, very long tournament, and people often don't have enough patience to last that many days. It's a tournament that lasts 10 days if you win it. All right, the first day is over. There's still a long way to go, but oh well, I'm advancing to day 2 with a big stack, and the adventure continues. It's a tournament that I enjoy a lot, so obviously there's a lot of money on the line, and I want to play it well, but also I'm glad I get to experience and enjoy this tournament. Every year, when I get eliminated, I'm always looking forward to the next year with a lot of excitement, and advancing with a big stack makes that adventure susceptible to last longer. Today is day 1. I have to leave very quickly because the casino is packed. There are 4,000 or 5,000 people playing today, and if you don't get out fast, you end up in a long queue in the parking lot. So I try to be one of the first to bag my chips and get out fast. That's the good thing about having experience, about not being at my first main event. It's that at least I don't have to wait in a queue in the parking. Tomorrow will be a new day, and let's hope that everything goes as well and as smoothly as today.
One episode was enough to impress us, Adrian. With your perfectly balanced cocktail of big bluffs, finely tuned value bets, and a healthy dose of aggression, you hit hard right from the start. ending the first day of the main event with 143,000 chips, more than double the initial 60,000 and a huge stack of 180 blinds. It's been a long day for you and for the thousands of other survivors. But the marathon has only just begun. It's going to stretch over 10 whole days. We'll be watching alongside you in the next episode of Inside the Mind of a Pro.